Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Wareham Zoning Board of Appeals for tonight's Wednesday, April 24th, 2019. It is 6:30 p.m. and we are at the room 320 of the Multi-Service Center, 48 Marion Road, Wareham, Mass. I want to call the meeting to order. I make a roll call. My far right, Veronica Debonese, our clerk, Jim Akibachi. My far left, Attorney Jen Kendrick, Walter Cruz Jr. Next to me is the town planner, Ken Buckland, myself, the chair, Nazi El-Kulasi. Got a few business to do. Take us a couple of minutes, we'll get back to you. The minutes for April 10, 2019.
I have not had a chance to review them, so if you want to table that, we can do it at the end. It's up to you.
Somebody review the minutes?
Somebody else did, that's good with me.
I don't know. Somebody review the minutes?
No,
I actually did not get an opportunity.
All right, let's table it to the end. Discussion on and possible vote, reorganization and meeting conduct. What's this? Ken?
This was a request of the clerk, Jim Akabati.
We talked about this.
Okay. To reorganize, we should wait for Jake, regular member. So we'll table this as well until Jake's here. Jake, yeah. All right. We're gonna go with the continued public hearing. We're gonna jump to 9-19 Pharmacanis, 59 Main Street.
The engineer proponent for the project had requested this afternoon that the be continued until the next regular meeting of the board.
Okay, is everyone here heard that? So we're gonna continue this hearing
Till what date?
The 8th?
May 8th.
till May 8th. You will not be notified, so just put it on your agenda if you wish to attend. So it will be continued until May 8th. Okay, do I have a motion to continue?
So moved.
Do I have a second to continue?
Second.
Second by Jen, all in favor, say aye.
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 Abstain, thank you. Is that beeping? Who's close? All right, we'll jump to the public hearings, 12-19, Belinda and Anthony Flynn, 1 Skipper Way. Oh, you. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4. I think you should wait. I can't sit in this matter. This way you have 5 people, 5 board members. Maybe you should wait for because I can't sit on your case. Well, Jake's coming.
Okay.
So we'll hear your next one. Okay, just wait 10 minutes.
This is them, I'll put this over here. Thank you. So what was that, 12-19?
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll be going to 13-19?
No, 1 second before that. Who's here for Pinehurst Drive?
I am.
What do you have? Quick.
I just trying to extend my deck 3 feet.
All right. Counsel, do you mind if we take him,
Not at all, no,
Alright. because it's gonna be a long
I
night.
feel bad enough for him that he wants
All
to
right.
so much for 3 foot.
All right, 14-19, Christopher and Maria Shepherd, 24 Pinehurst Drive. Come forward, please.
The Zoning Board of Appeals will hold a public hearing on April 24th, 2019, at 6:30 PM in room 320 of the Wareham Multi-Service Center, 48 Marion Road, Wareham, Mass. 02571, to consider petition number 14-19 for a special permit and/or variance for relief under Article 13 from the requirements of Article 6 of the Wareham zoning bylaws for Christopher and Maria Shepherd, 75 Turner Drive, Bridgewater, Mass. 02324, seeking to extend an existing deck located at 24 Pinehurst Drive, Wareham, Mass. It appears on Assessors Map 46A, Lot 179, in the R30 zoning district.
All right, just for the record, Mr. Morrison just came in, and I forget to mention also present town consulting professional engineer, Mr. Charles Rowley. All right, if you give us your name and address for the record, and let us know what you're doing.
Chris Shepherd, 75 Turner Drive, Bridgewater, Mass. And the address for the house is 24 Pinehurst Drive, Wareham.
All right, what are you trying to do?
We have an existing wooden deck that's old, and all we're trying to do is extend it. It's 8 feet wide right now. All we're trying to do is extend it 11 feet. We have an existing, actually I have a couple pictures, an existing patio, paver patio below the deck that's 13 feet wide, and we're asking to go 11 feet, so an additional 3 feet. I actually have some pictures too I can show you.
While you're here, where is you, which one, what are you extending? What did
So
you,
right, this is the deck right here, we just want to come out 3 feet.
okay, so,
Same footprint, this is just coming out 3 feet.
okay, you adding 3 feet in the back.
Correct.
You want to explain quick to the members, because it's not on your plan?
So the existing deck that's already there, it's, I think, 22 by 8.
One second, let me finish.
So all we're trying to do is we're not going to expand the width from side to side. We just want an additional 3 feet further, which is over an existing patio that's 23 by 13. So we'd still fall 2 feet short of going all the way out to the patio. We're not going all the way out to the patio, just an additional 3 feet.
Oh, I see it.
Go ahead, Jim, what do you want to ask?
No, I found it. I wanted to know where the deck was, and, because I noticed that the
what's the
building
setbacks
inspector
there?
said 10 foot.
10 feet in the back, and you don't have 10 feet?
Well, that's what it was. Here we go. The building inspector's letter said that we need 10 feet. You only need
I
the
don't have
first
that.
page.
Let me get one.
Oh, there's more. Let me pass them around.
And how far you gonna be, 7 feet?
Right now, we're 8 feet wide. We want to go to 11 feet wide.
And how back you'll have, how far your setback will be once you add?
What do you
Like
mean?
how far from the property line you're gonna be? Yeah.
No different than the private.
No, in the back.
Oh, so we're gonna be, the back of the house is the seawall, is the water. So what's it, 21 feet on the left-hand side and 19 feet on the right-hand side?
Here's what's making me a little confused. The building inspector responded that Article 6, Table 621 requires a 10-foot side and rear yard setbacks.
Right.
Okay, the plan you're showing us, now that I figured out where the deck is down, this little pointy thing, that's the seawall, right?
Correct.
Okay, and that's also your property line?
Yes.
So what we're trying to figure out is how far is your deck from that property line? On the sides, I see, on one side, you don't have the 10 feet,
I don't have 10 feet on either side.
on either side.
Either side. So you can look on
You
those.
have 10 feet from the seawall?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Then some.
Absolutely, yeah.
So it's the 3 feet on either side.
If you can, so there's an existing patio under the deck. You can see the patio that I'm talking about?
Picture.
So that's not gonna change. We're just gonna push the deck out 3 feet on that side for what we wanna
Who
do.
prepared these plans? Gary?
The person in Lakeville?
All right.
This was a mortgage plan, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you
Yep.
took this out of your,
Usually, it's custom for us when you apply for, like, when you're encroaching to setbacks, we need to see with the surveyor, just like the gentleman stamped here, show it on the plan, on this
Well,
side.
so what I did is actually, I sent him this, and he's the one who actually, he's the one who did the plan originally, and he put in these markings here. So he's the one who actually put in those markings.
What markings?
So where you see on the left, like arrows, 8.5 feet, 5.5 feet, 7.5 feet, he actually did all that stuff after the fact. So that's
But
new.
we need a surveyor plan showing exactly what you're extending, so we could reference to it. So if we grant it to you the way it is, you might, maybe your framer make a mistake, make it 4 feet. Who knows? But we need to reference to it, so when the building inspector go inspect, he's got something in his hand. This is my opinion, but I wanna run it to the board, see what they think. Veronica?
Well, I see this, I know it hasn't been surveyed, but I think this
Where was that?
is a reference to the size here and what he wanted to do, but
Okay, that's our opinion. Jim?
You know, I agree with the chair on the need for the plan, but at the same time, my other face says, this is pretty simple. And I hate like heck to make this guy spend a lot of money and come back. I think I can understand what he's trying to do, and I don't have a problem with it. I'd be willing to grant in favor, to vote in favor if the rest of the board was so inclined.
I do agree it's simple, but simple things lead to problems. So that's why it's always been the customs that we request those things when it's encroaching. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I had no idea, I mean, to be honest with you.
Sir,
I-
let me.
Oh,
I'm
yeah,
not done.
sorry.
Jake?
Nothing at this time.
Jen?
Nothing.
Walter?
I mean, I'm more with the building department, based on, that it already says it's a non-compliance already on the deck, so it's, I mean, to extend it, it's even extending it closer.
So we have the authority to grant relief and allow it,
Right.
even though, based on a finding that wouldn't be more, substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood. That's why the building inspector kicked it to us.
I mean, if he has it surveyed, I'm fine.
Anyone in the audience want to speak in favor? Anyone against? That's okay, so what's the wishes of the board? Who's in favor of Jim theory to let it go the way it is? Who's in favor with Jim?
I am.
I am as well.
Jake?
I'd like to make a motion to grant the,
If it gets denied, he's done.
I understand. Let's either get him done or get him out of here. I don't want, I don't,
I'm not in favor the way it is, so let's hear for Jake. Jake, we don't want to blow it off for the
Okay.
guy. Jake, you good for it?
If we put some, I do agree with you, Nazi, but I also do, you know, it's gonna cost a lot of money to go do this plan for such a small thing. As long as he, is there any way we could,
you want to condition it?
yeah, condition it for, make sure that he does only 3 feet and nothing further than that? Is there any way we can do that?
By specifying.
Okay, well, just for the, before we go forward, Veronica will be voting on this. I'm sorry, Walter, because it'll be biased if I say you are. Okay, go ahead, make a motion. If you, do you want to add anything before we go forward?
I mean, no, there's nothing real. I thought, I mean, I guess, ignorance. I mean, went through conservation. I had no idea I had to do this until we
I
went
know.
for the building permit, and then they denied the building permit. So I didn't, and we're trying to get it done before the summer, so, that
We need to
was,
close the
I just
public
kind of.
hearing and all that.
Yeah, okay.
My first motion would be to close the public hearing.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Jen. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Oppose, abstain.
My second motion would be, in reference to the second bulleted item on the building inspector's denial letter, in which, he states that we need to decide if this is a special permit or a variance.
Right.
I find that this is not detrimental to the neighborhood. I don't think it's substantially more detrimental. Therefore, I don't think a variance is in order. I think we can vote on a special permit. So I make a motion that this is considered a special permit.
Have a
and not
second?
variance.
Do I have a second by Veronica. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Oppose,
My
abstain.
third motion would be that we grant relief under Article 6, Table 621, on the setbacks and allow this man to make his deck 3 feet more towards the seawall, but not encroaching on the sidelines by an inch.
Okay, any discussion on the motion?
I would like to
Yeah.
ask a question. So, we do have this hand-drawn plan that shows what he's looking to do. It has the existing deck on here and the increase in size. Could we make this part of the file permanently so that the inspector would know, but this is what it's supposed to be?
Okay, well, we'll initial it and put it with the file.
So, plan
No actual name on it.
with initials to be attached.
So your total deck will be 11 feet. Wow.
Correct.
All right, so maybe in the conditions, you guys put condition not to exceed 11 feet? In the standard conditions. All right, so Jim's motion to grant with these conditions. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Jake. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, aye. Abstained. Okay, 410, it carries. You good?
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
So before we go forward, let's get this one signed so we don't get things crossed.
Do you guys have an extra pen?
Keep this in the file. Jimmy, why
Yep.
don't you
extra
initial
Yeah.
this one too, and keep it with her.
We'll give it back.
Gonna go back to 12-19, Belinda and Anthony Flynn.
I usually get my
Just give us a minute.
Anything from this file that we just voted on?
Right here.
Thank you.
Jake and Jen. All right, in this case, I'm gonna recuse myself for a conflict. So everyone else on the board, Walter, you're in as well.
Which one are we on? Which one are we on? 19?
12-19.
12, 19? Skipper's Way?
Ronnie.
And this has not been read in yet, or did it? This one I already read?
No, it's not red.
No, okay.
Everybody's happy?
One-
You gotta put this with it.
This goes with that last file. One for me. You're recusing, but you want to see the paperwork, I assume?
No, I'm just doing my notes and I'll stay on the side. Let me finish my side.
Yeah, left. Yeah, I'm putting one. Did you put that on Ken's? Zoning Board of Appeals will hold a public hearing on April 24th, 2019, at 6:30 PM in room 320 of the Wareham Multi-Service Center, 48 Marion Road, Wareham, Mass. 02571, to consider petition number 12-19 for a special permit from the requirements of Article 3, Table 320, Article 3, Section 340.2, and Article 14, Section 1460 of the Wareham zoning bylaws for Belinda and Anthony Flynn, 1 Skipper's Way, Wareham, Mass. 02571, seeking to create a non-commercial animal kennel for more than 3 dogs located at 1 Skipper's Way, Wareham, Mass. That's on Assessors Map 114B, Lot PG1 in the R130 zoning district.
All right, Jim will chair.
Good evening.
How you doing?
You want to give us a quick rundown of what you're up to?
Sure. So we recently moved to Wareham, and we currently have a kennel license in our other town of Randolph, and we show dogs as a hobby. I work full-time right in Boston. My husband is retired and he stays home. And our dogs have aged out, so we have some geriatric dogs. Normally, dogs live 10 to 12 years, but we have a 15-year-old, a 13-year-old, and an 11-year-old that are hanging on, which is really nice. So we just want to make sure that we can have what we would call a hobby kennel, non-commercial. We're not going to take in dogs. We're not going to train dogs. We're not going to store dogs. We're not a breed kennel, we're not a puppy mill, we don't produce dogs, we just have some dogs that have aged out. And we want them to be able to live with us in our house. We're not building a structure outside. Our dogs live with us. They have crates when we're not home. We have a fenced-in yard, and our dogs are what you could call performance dogs, so they do competitions around the country. We do agility, obedience, very well-trained dogs. The dogs, like I said, are not outside unattended, obviously very well cared for because they're 15 years old. But we just wanted to make sure that, you know, as we're moving in here, that we were basically learning the rules and following the rules. And so we applied for the hobby kennel license, which gets denied, and then we come here for the variance to repurpose the property to allow it. So we included in there the letter about who we are. My husband's actually a judge in the United Kennel Club. We do travel, like I said, for performance events. We take all of our dogs with us when we go. And they travel with us in our motorhome. So they're our kids, and we take pretty good care of them. So I don't know if there's any questions, but we included in here.
Before,
I'm
yeah, I
sorry.
do have some questions, but before I ask my questions, Ken, you sounded like you were going to make a comment.
This is a special permit, right?
Oh, sorry,
Clear in your
special
throat.
permit.
Just good, what I wanted to do is make sure that the associate member would not place on that.
But it is a special permit. No, it's not, she was saying variance, but it is a special permit,
Oh,
right?
I apologize.
Yeah.
Yes, it is a special.
Well, no, well, that's good for you because it's a much different standard.
Oh, okay.
It's more in your favor, okay. So my first question would be, it says more than 3 dogs. How many dogs is your intention?
So currently, right now, we have 7. But like I said, I have a 15-year-old, a 13-year-old, and an 11-year-old. You know, it's potential we could, in the next couple of years, get a puppy.
Well, we had 8, we just lost the mother
Last one, right, so.
to cancer.
So 7 dogs, and you also mentioned that you have a kennel elsewhere. Are
Oh,
you
no, where
moving
we
or-
lived in our former town, the
Okay.
town that we lived in granted
Yeah.
us this same
You've-
permit. So
Same-
we're just
same
trying to
permit.
basically
It's
transfer
not
it.
like you're going to be coming back?
No,
No, no, no.
absolutely not. And again, this is
It's
not
not permanent home.
commercial. It's just, we do it as a
Lot of
hobby.
dogs.
Is this a big one?
Before I go to the public and ask for comments, Veronica, do you have any questions?
How big is your current lot?
1.54.
Is that it?
Yes.
Jake?
No questions.
Jan? Walter?
No questions.
Okay. Having no questions from the board, is there anybody here in the audience that would like to speak in favor of this application? Is there anybody here this evening that would like to speak in objection to this application?
I just have a couple questions about.
Then come right up and identify yourself, please. Just so you know, I don't, you sit down and say your name, I just want to let you know as chair, I don't tend to engage in dialogues. If you have a comment, make your comment, either favor or opposed. We'll hear it, and then we'll act with what we hear. It's not decision by committee, and you just didn't join the committee.
I
Thank you.
understand.
Go ahead.
My name is Pamela Hamlet. I live at 3 Jonathan Lane. I just wanted to know what type of dogs they were, and just, are they planning to get more than 8 in the future?
So the lady has asked through the chair what breed dogs you have.
They're all terriers of
Okay,
different
so
sorts.
Small dogs?
Yes,
Little dogs, okay.
from 60 to 15 pounds.
Thank you for your answer. Thank you for your comments.
And we will never have more than 8.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Where are the dogs now?
In our house.
Crates. So we have, I'm not sure if you guys are dog owners, but our dogs have what you call wire crates, not kennels set up, not runs, but when we're not home, they have oversized crates, so you could say it's like for a 20-pound dog, it's probably half this table, and they have bedding in there, and they're in our walkout basement to our fence. We have a fenced-in yard for them as well, but they don't run around our house when we're not home.
At night, they sleep in bed with us.
How big is the kennel, right? It's a kennel that you're trying to put on the property.
No,
Oh,
we're
no,
not,
no, no.
no, we're not structuring
No
any
structural
buildings.
build.
They're gonna just live in our house with us.
They live in the house.
Okay, so I'm not
Yeah.
understanding. This is just to
Just to be able to have
own.
that many dogs.
stay.
Yep,
The word kennel is used because that's what our zoning board, our zoning bylaws
Call
uses
it.
as language.
Right.
and That's how the word kennel, there's not gonna be a structure built.
No structures being built at all?
Just the
no?
fenced-in backyard, that's all we have built
Right.
for
Just
them.
need special approval to have the number of pets that you have.
Yes.
Exactly.
Which seems kind of crazy, but,
We're
but-
just doing, we're
but so
just
be it.
following the law.
You're being honest, law-abiding citizens, but,
Exactly.
so that's it. No structures, no nothing.
No.
And a good-sized yard.
Yeah, I have no problem with this. This is,
I'd like to hear a motion.
well, I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Can I get a second on that?
Second.
Okay, we have had a motion to close the public hearing, and it's been seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 Right.
Opposed? Public hearing is closed. Vote a motion to either grant or deny this application.
I'll make a motion to grant it.
As a special permit?
Yeah, it is a
Do
special.
we need to, we don't need to identify that, no.
No, it's allowed by special.
Okay, so the motion's been made. Is there a second?
A second.
And it's been seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none. You're all set.
Thank you very much.
Have a good night.
Is 34 Hammond Street here? No, just one second. Last time you didn't show up, right? Yeah.
Oh, no, thank God.
Okay. What's your case about? What's that about? Just remind me.
My dad, and you wanted me to get a survey, so I got the survey done and brought you pictures.
All right, come forward.
Signing it.
Sorry, Bob. All right, continue public hearing, 1-19, Jessica Nassif, 34 Hammond Street. All right, public hearing still open, just brief us quick what you were doing.
So,
Just say your name. No, it's been open. We just need your name for the record. and
Jessica
address.
Nassif, 34 Hammond Street, Onset, Mass.
Yeah,
So we were just extending our deck, an additional 10 feet to bridge a gap between a raised patio in the back and the existing deck. So we had already done the work when we came in, so I do have a picture for you of the old deck, but it's not,
okay.
see. It's
Just
got
let
the-
me see the surveyed plan you did.
Okay.
If I recall, did you have a neighbor, a direct abutter with you speaking in
Yes.
favor? Was that you? Okay.
Yes, she represented the only two houses that abut me, and she was for me.
That's right, that's right.
How many?
This is the deck as it is now. This, I only brought it just so you could see, this is when the original deck was 15 years ago. That's where the, I think this is the gap that we filled in.
Okay, just pass it to them, Sean.
That's the existing, and this is, sorry, let me make sure. This is the original deck, so this right here, so their stairs used to come up right here, so instead of this into the deck, this is kind of, you can tell by the ground level coming up, so this is a raised patio on the other side of this. So that this is all along.
Where's the proposed addition here?
This is, it's not proposed because it's already built, so it's existing.
Oh, you guys did it without a permit?
Right.
So you have to come back, okay.
So it's built.
It's built. It's 90% built, they, you can see that picture, the stairs are not.
All right. Okay, Veronica, do you have a comment on that?
Not at this time.
Jimmy?
I have no comments. I'm just curious if there's anybody from the neighborhood that's here tonight. We'll find out.
Jake?
No questions.
Yeah.
No, I think that I was, all we needed for this, and I think most of our opinions, was just one of the plans. The only abutter showed up and spoke out that she was highly in favor of this, the last hearing. I don't know if
I
anyone's...
recall.
Yeah. I don't know if anyone's
But
here.
no, thank you for bringing that up, because I hadn't recalled.
That's what I thought, yeah. And I don't know if there's someone here tonight that wasn't here last time.
Let me ask you something. You were here on March 13 last time, right?
Yes.
All right. So Jake, myself, Jim, and Veronica. Jen, you weren't here unless you read the minutes.
No, I was here. That's what I was just saying what I remembered about the meeting.
You were?
Yes, I was definitely.
On the 13th, you were here?
I was most definitely here.
Okay, very well. So you're in.
See, and you thought we were ignoring you.
All right. Okay, so anyone in the audience want to speak in favor or against? I hear none.
I have a question.
Yeah.
This is the one that, Jen, you were saying, survey plans were requested for this, weren't they?
Yeah, I thought that's why we, yeah,
Right.
we sent
You
her
asked me
away
to-
for, to
They
get
asked me to-
plans, yeah.
Because
get
I
them
just
done and
didn't
bring-
see any, so I.
Oh,
it's
you,
great.
they must, Ken dropped them.
Oh.
Yeah,
Sorry.
that would have been a
Okay, that
nice,
answers
that
the
would have been a
question.
nice catch.
Oh, okay, let me give you the pictures.
I'm gonna pass these down here. This is a different one. Okay.
So Veronica, you all set?
I am.
Anyone else want to add anything? Anyone else? Hear none, let's move to close.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
All right.
Aye.
Oppose, abstain. Okay, let's make a motion, so we're gonna decide if
I
it's
think-
a
I think-
special permit.
Is this a special permit or a variance?
Special permit.
Yeah,
whatever we
Not
decide.
detrimental?
I would move to grant it as a special permit on the
Okay.
grounds that it's not substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood.
Okay, do I have a second on that?
Second that.
Second, all in favor, say aye.
All right.
Right.
Oppose, abstain, okay, no wishes.
Make a motion to grant as a special permit as presented.
I thought we just did,
Standard conditions apply.
No, we did, we treat it as a special permit. Not a variance, the first vote.
oh, we took a vote on that.
All right, any discussion on that? I would just include the date and the plan. Minute. And standard conditions.
Pleasant Valley, March 18.
Any other conditions or discussion on that? Okay, so with some motion by, I guess, Jim?
Yep.
Do I have a second on that? Second?
Second to grant?
Second.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
All right.
Aye.
Aye. Oppose, abstain. Thank you. All set.
Thank you.
Is Mr. Grosso here?
No,
Yeah,
he's asked
yes.
for an extension, a continuance to May 30th.
How much time how long has his application been in front of us? If we run out of time, I mean, if we grant, we can keep giving him more time, but
There's no May 30. May 22nd. He asked for extension till May 30?
He asked for an extension to May 30th.
Well, we'll put on May, okay, this is the last extension we're gonna grant. Until May 22nd, there's no hearing on the 30th. Okay,
do
should,
you want to push it into June? He asked till the 30th.
no, let's go May 22nd.
Okay.
So, motion to continue
So moved.
to May 22nd for 23-18. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Oppose, abstain. All right. Sorry, guys, for keeping you. We're gonna go 13-19, 2416 Cranberry Highway LLC, 2416
Not here,
Cranberry
just-
Highway. All right.
Yours? Oh, I'm sorry. I see it's yours. I see it. Yeah. Sorry about that.
Thank you. This one needs to be read in. There's stuff in here that you want to pass out while I'm reading. Yeah, there is. 1, 2, 3, 4. Here's this one. There is. The Zoning Board of Appeals will hold a public hearing on April 24th, 2019, at 6:30 PM in Room 320 of the Wareham Multi-Service Center, 48 Marion Road, Wareham, Mass. 02571, to consider petition number 13-19. for a special permit from the requirements of Article 9, Table 921, Article 11, Section 1126, Article 14, Section 1470, and Article 15, Section 1520 of the Wareham zoning bylaws for 2416 Cranberry Highway, LLC, 41 North Road, Bedford, Mass. 01730, seeking to raise a single pump filling station and replace it with a new convenience store and 5 pump filling stations located at 2416 Cranberry Highway, Wareham, Mass. That appears on Assessors Map 108, lots 1, 2, 3, and 4 in the Industrial Zoning District.
All right, very well. This case, Mr. Cruz will be sitting to vote. Very well.
Mr. Cruz abstaining?
No, Mr. Cruz gets sitting.
Oh, fine,
Do you
good.
have a conflict with him?
No, not at all, no,
Okay.
I thought, I didn't hear you, Nazi.
No, Veronica is not voting, Mr. Cruz is.
Okay, all right, I got you.
Very well. It's
Fair
all
enough.
yours.
All right, my name is Robert Perry, I'm an attorney here in town, and I represent the applicant. The applicant is 2416 Cranberry Highway LLC. I'm sure we're all familiar with this property. This is the Maxi gas station across from Walmart. It's a mess, it's an eyesore. My clients are proposing, they come in, they take over that station, which is a grandfathered use as far as the sale of gasoline goes, and they put in a convenience store. It's going to be beautiful, it's gonna be spacious. It's probably gonna be more spacious than any other gas station in town. I'm accompanied tonight by Mr. Lucian DeStefano, who we're gonna call Luke, because that's all I know him tonight. He's from Bowler Engineering, they're kind of specialists in gasoline stations, and that's how they come into this. I'm not gonna say much, but I would like to address, I've asked for a couple of deviations in the bylaw, and I wanna make it clear that they are deviations. That as to the signage that we'd like to put up, and we're prepared to talk about that, and a deviation as to the parking. And I'd like to talk about that when the time comes. But they're not variances, and I just want to be clear on that, because a variance is a lot different. Bylaw, in those two instances, authorizes what they call deviations. In fact, on signage, they authorize what they call a variance, but under the bylaw, it doesn't appear to be a variance. But I'm not looking for that, I'm looking for the deviation. Charlie has reviewed...
Before you go forward,
Yes.
for my edification, what's the difference between a variance and a deviation?
Tremendous. If you talk about a variance and you get into the requirements of 40A, as Jen said earlier, it's a much more difficult burden. All the bylaw requires when you're granting deviations, you find that it's appropriate under the circumstances. It's more like a special permit, Jim, versus a variance.
More of a waiver, you mean? You ask for
That's
a...
kind of what it is. Call it a waiver, too. It's much, much different than a variance. And I just want that clear, because I don't want to get into all of the issues under 40A. Now, Charlie, when he reviewed, wasn't happy with some of our landscaping plan and felt we might need variances. I'm going to tell you right now, we're going to do whatever we need to do to eliminate any request for variances. As to landscape, because the bylaw doesn't address that, so it would have to be a variance, and it would be a problem. We've got a couple of renderings here of the place. You see the building there, you see the whole grounds, you've got the plans as they exist right now. We know we're gonna be making some changes. I thought we might make them for tonight, but I changed my mind. I'd like to not make total changes to all of those pages of the plans all at once, or more than once, if I can help it. So I'm gonna let Luke pick up now and tell you what this project is all about. I mean, you guys know already, I think. And we need guidance from you as to what you need from us, and we're more than happy to try and cooperate and do it. Oh, and by the way, welcome new members of the board. Happy to see you here.
But, Counselor, before we go further...
Yes, sir.
Who's 2416 Cranberry Highway LLC? Is this the applicant? Or
That's the applicant, yes.
The
That's not the current owners.
Okay, do you have possession of the property, PNS?
I have given you as part of my package, it's number 3 on my table of contents, a letter from the owners authorizing us to proceed tonight.
Page 3 or number 3?
It's number 3. It's number 3, Jim. It's a letter from Attorney Nancy Angus, as she is trustee of Cranway Realty Trust, the owner of the property. A lot of times they give you the PNS, but I don't want to give you a 100-page PNS and, overwhelm everything else here. And the way I read it, the only thing I need to do is give you permission, our permission to proceed. So I believe that satisfies that.
Okay.
Oh, there it is. It's this.
Yeah. All right, let's proceed.
All right, well, good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. For the record, Luke DiStefano with Bowler Engineering, Southborough, Massachusetts. And I think a lot of my thunder was stolen, and I think the board is probably very familiar with the property, so the presentation will be fairly brief, and then I'll be happy to answer any questions the board or the audience may have. But as mentioned, this is a raise and rebuild of the existing Maxi-Gas facility at the corner, the northeast corner of Cranberry Highway and Tow Road. As I'm sure you're all very well aware, that existing facility has outlived its lifespan and right now is, for lack of a better term, a little bit of an eyesore. So the applicant is basically proposing to come in and completely raise and rebuild the facility as shown on the rendering to my right. That will include the proposed construction of about a 5,300 square foot convenience store, basically in the rear center of the property. The convenience store will be serviced by 5 multi-product gasoline and diesel dispensers located effectively the midway point between the building and Cranberry Highway. Because each dispenser is capable of fueling from either side, you're looking at a total of 10 fueling positions should the facility be constructed as currently shown. Those dispensers will sit beneath an overhead canopy, so patrons, as you see at typical gas stations, will be shielded as much as possible from the elements. The convenience store will be served by 33 parking spaces, primarily located in front and on the north side of the proposed convenience store. There are a series of 6 spaces located in the southwest corner of the lot, or basically at the intersection of Tow Road and Cranberry Highway. The site under the proposed condition is hopefully going to be serviced by 3 curb cuts. One full movement curb cut located effectively within the center of Tow Road. And full movement just basically means that you can pull in and pull out and head in any direction you choose. There's a second curb cut which is designed to be a right-in only on the southern side of Cranberry Highway. And then the third curb cut would be a divided right-in, right-out only located on the northern side of Cranberry Highway. In addition to all the other improvements, we're looking to significantly enhance the landscaping. We are going to maintain about 30% of the lot, or just under 20,000 square feet, as green space, and you can see that from the rendering that we are effectively proposing landscape buffers on all sides to, again, create not only a facility that's going to function well, but a facility that's going to look good also.
Can I interrupt you for 1 second?
Surely.
You were talking about right in and right out, and right out and right on. And the north entrance is right in and right out only. So I'm hearing you correctly, somebody coming from the north heading south, in order to get in there, they'll have to go to the lights at Tow Road, take a left, and then use the entrance on Tow Road to get in there?
That's correct.
That's the plan. Okay.
The plan.
Okay. I just, you said it kind of quick, and
Not a
I tried to
problem.
listen as fast as you talked, and I guess I did.
You did.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So the other improvements is going to be improvements to utilities. We will be proposing all basically underground utilities within to Tow Road. We want to minimize impacts to Cranberry Highway to the greatest extent possible. We've had initial discussions with utility providers, and we believe the appropriate utilities are within Tow Road and of adequate capacity to service the proposed use. And then the last real improvement that you'll see here over what you have today is lighting. Gone are the days of that crazy used car lot lighting that you used to see at a lot of facilities like this. This is a very muted lighting design. I've been doing gas station design now for 25 years, and they've made great strides with lighting and being able to put the lights where you want it, which is basically beneath the canopy, within parking areas, at the curb cuts, and not seeing light trespass onto abutting properties or the abutting rights-of-way. So we've taken a lot of time and effort to make sure that this lighting design will be consistent with others within the industry, and again, something that we think at the end of the day is going to result in a significant improvement over what you have at the facility today. I believe the board is aware that we have received some comment letters, one from the peer review engineer, another from the fire department. As mentioned, we've gone through, we've reviewed all of the comments. We're happy to discuss all of them or some of them tonight. We will effectively be making revisions to the plan set to address all of those comments. We think we can address each of them to the satisfaction of the review engineer as well as the board. And with that, I am certainly happy to answer any questions the board or the audience may have.
Okay.
I agree. I think we'd like to hear from the board and what you might like us to do here. We know what Charlie wants. We want to.
Right. Let's
Work
hear
with
from
him.
the board quick, just quick ideas, quick sense of the project. Veronica, so.
Well, my first thought is, I think that's great to have the traffic flowing the way that you have it, because I think it's a little tough getting in and out of there as it is right now. So you're requesting, I think, a variance, right, for the parking spaces? That's what I'm reading.
Deviation, as they
You called it
call
a
it.
deviation, but
Yes.
as it's stated on the,
We're looking to go with 33 spaces versus 36.
36 the requirement.
36 is the
So three
requirement, and
less.
33 is what we'd like to do. And, you know, we'd have to close up other things that would make this a much less safe and a much less aesthetically pleasing plan if we did go with 30. I mean, you know, we'd probably fit them, but it wouldn't be the right way to go, I don't think.
And one of the
33 is more than enough spaces here.
One of the things I'd like to add, given the type of use, we all know that at these types of facilities, the fueling spaces themselves are a lot of times utilized as parking spaces. People will get gas, go into the building,
Much
get whatever they're gonna
frustrating for
get,
the next person.
and come out.
Makes you mad, doesn't it? You want to get in there and get gas, and somebody's inside getting a hot dog.
So if you add that into the equation, we'd actually have 43 parking spaces, which would be in excess of what's allowed by zoning.
Isn't you supposed to add those anyway, no?
Count them?
You're supposed to count them, no?
Most municipalities allow for a certain percentage, some do all, some do half. When we put these together, we generally don't, so we take a conservative approach to the parking. And the one space per 150 is a pretty aggressive parking requirement for this type of use anyway. So we feel we've got more than adequate parking with the 33.
I did a project in hand, they do count on the pumps.
Some do.
It makes sense, as Veronica said, you know, people pull in there, they get their gas, they walk in the store, do their shopping, and they park their car there.
All right, very well. Jim?
On the plan that you have in color there, you show Tow Road, and then you see that nice green lawn, and then there's a big white spot between the road and the green lawn down towards Route 28. Is that owned by this parcel? Is it owned by others?
It's owned by this parcel. It extends within,
There.
well, we're looking, the current proposal is to modify Tow Road slightly to create additional turning lanes out of Tow Road. We've had preliminary, or the applicant has had preliminary discussions with DOT through their traffic consultant, and we believe that what we have shown is what Mass DOT is ultimately going to require. And really all it does is it adds another lane, an exiting lane coming out of Tow Road, so that you have a dedicated left turn lane coming out of Tow Road, heading south on Cranberry Highway, and then a right turn through and left turn lane coming out as well.
So that white space, it's not drawn as a turn lane now, it's...
No.
Well, if you look on the site plan that was provided, you can see it a
I'm
little,
looking at that one.
yeah, we don't have the striping shown on the render.
Okay, so that's gonna be part of the road.
Correct.
That was my only question. I like that.
Yeah, the only thing I have is with, really is the height of the sign. That's pretty much,
Yeah, we'll get into the sign.
yeah.
I'm sure.
The rest,
Let's wait 2 minutes until Jen get back, so stay on record.
So, just as a general discussion while we're waiting for her to come back, how many pumps do they have up there at Route 58 on that, whatever it is, all seasons, do you know? By any
The
chance?
Shell station of the old 9/11 that closed up, you mean?
Yeah, right there at the end of 58.
I don't know for sure. Looking at one of the aerials, it looks like it's probably 6, if I had to guess.
How many?
This is 5.
5. So this is not quite as big as that. Pump-wise, store-wise, it might be different.
But, yeah, and I think area-wise, as far as all the earth returning and parking, we're bigger really, but we've got less pumps.
Just, just for comparison purposes, it's always nice.
I'm hoping you're gonna find this is a lot nicer project than that one. I think it will. I'm pretty confident here.
I'll just miss the old International Harvester dealership.
now currently it looks like there's 3 pumps there now.
All right, Jen's back.
And some on the
so-
side.
So you'd be adding 2 more tanks.
All right, Walter. Jen's back, so comment?
We waited for you.
I apologize,
that's
I'm
okay.
so sorry.
That's okay.
It's necessary. I get this huge coffee, I'm gonna be going soon too.
All right, Jen, do you have a comment right now?
I don't have any
Question,
comments
Jay.
at this time.
Nothing at this time.
I'm just gonna go ahead, Counselor.
I didn't know we got to his questions about the signs.
Well, yeah, that's the only issue I had was with
He
the
has the
sign.
issue of the height of the sign.
I understand that, which is one of the deviations.
One of the-
I just didn't want to cut him short.
No, I know, I said we'll get into the sign.
Okay, I got you.
Let's
I got
get
you. You're the
into more
boss.
of the site. I'm just gonna jump quick to the audience. Anyone in favor of this project? Okay, here not, anyone against? Against? Okay. I'm gonna ask town engineer on his comment. Do you wanna add anything before he starts?
No.
All right, Charlie, let's hear it.
This is a little bit unique in one way. As you probably know, there's a project before the planning board for directly across Cranberry Highway. And this particular piece is probably the last one at the intersection. I can foresee multiple projects further down the road. But when I took a look at this, I was very interested in the traffic study because the expansion of this particular facility from essentially 2 pumps to 5 actually islands with 10 pumps is a pretty substantial increase. When I reviewed the traffic report, it identified, I think, a count of something like 62 trips per day out of that facility, increasing, if this thing goes the way it's shown, to over 1,100. That's a substantial increase for the amount of traffic that would be going in and out of this facility. So I tried to take a look at it from the standpoint of what makes sense for the site, how do the points of access and egress work, what sort of turning movements are going to be required for both traffic and for service and so forth. Mr. Perry may be right with respect to deviations. However, I think the zoning bylaw specifies that you have to make certain findings with respect to deviations. You'll find that in the parking segment of the bylaw, which is, I think, Article 9. One of the things that concerns me is that the substantial increase in the amount of traffic which will be generated by this facility, which comes out of the Institute of Traffic Engineers, by the way, It's not just something that's pulled out of the hat, but it's something that's from a document that is well recognized throughout the traffic industry. So they're using that as the basis for the traffic counts. It doesn't make any sense to me to maintain a point of access into this project that's so close to that intersection. For 62 trips per day, perhaps that little entryway, which is right close to the traffic light, is appropriate. But when you generate the potential increase for that, it seems to me that that particular point of access becomes a serious particular issue for safety. I would like to see a modification to the plan done to remove that particular point of egress or access. It's not for egress, it's just ingress
Which one is
only.
that, Charlie? I'm sorry.
That's the one, if you look on the plan, it would be right adjacent to Cranberry Highway, closest to Toll Road.
You're talking this one right here.
Gotcha.
That's
Okay.
correct, right.
I understand what you're saying.
The way that it's laid out right now, and with the number of spaces that are on the parking in the area, if you look closely at the plan, I believe there are 2 or 3 spaces that are right adjacent to that entrance. If you were to park in one of those spaces and attempt to get out of it at the same time that someone was going to flying in there from Cranberry Highway, there's bound to be contact between bumpers, if not much more.
Charlie,
Yeah.
let me interrupt you for 1 second.
Yeah,
I'm looking at that plan. So
Yep.
if we eliminated that entrance
yeah.
and the person had left the lights and wanted to go in there, they still have an opportunity to turn at the next entrance.
They would.
Okay.
Just as a comparison, if you were to really take a look at this site, it's not much different than the project which is up the street at Route 58 for Seasons. They have a right in, a right out, left out on Cranberry Highway, which is away from the intersection. They have a controlled intersection on Route 58 for other reasons. You might compare Route 58 to Toll Road as an example, just because of the orientation of the site. The access from Route 58 there is a right turn in, right turn out only. But the traffic that's on 58 is substantially different than what it would be on Toll Road. So the access from Toll Road can be both ways, and there would be no problem with that. But the configuration of the site lays itself out almost identical to that. I took the opportunity to go in there on 2 different occasions to see how that was configured. And the access point on Route 28 is far enough away from the intersection that you can make convenient turns. Sight distance is not an issue. If you go into the entrance from that point, you make the same kind of turn that you would make here to get to the gas pumps. The only real significant difference between the 2 sites is that the Seasons project has a drive-up window in the back, requiring a little bit more space in the back of the building between there and the property boundary. This particular site has very limited access, and right now there's no room for something like that. But that, in terms of the basic turning movements within the site, they're very, very close to the same. So that's why I'm saying, for safety reasons, it would be better if there were no point of entry into that site so close to the intersection, if in fact we're to believe the traffic movements that will be generated by the increase in the size of this project. 62 to over 100 and over 1,100, that's a lot. So it means that there's going to be more traffic on Toll Road. There will be more traffic trying to get in and out of it in both directions. So it seems to me that we should be taking advantage of the fact that there is a signalized intersection, including Toll Road and Cranberry Highway, from which turns in any direction can be made safely. And going in and out that much further away from the intersection might allow for the possibility of making right and left turns out of that intersection. So that was a part of the summary that I made. I'm recommending to the board that at least a study be made of it to see whether it would work or it would not work. But in terms of safety and the way that the parking spaces are laid out right there, I see that intersection as being a place where things get jammed up. And if it's anything like what happens at the Dunkin' Donuts site, which is up by Cumberland Farm, the entrance there has parking spaces that are right in front of the building. And if somebody's parking out or coming out of a space, somebody's going into that space from Route 28, you've got to stop because you can't make the turn. The same will happen here with somebody coming out of those spaces where those air facilities are. If they're backing out the same time that somebody comes in there, the person coming in is going to have to stop. If there's anybody behind them that also wants to make the turn, or even make the movement further up 28, that's going to be an issue. So I see that as a point of real congestion that needs to be resolved by, it would be preferable, in my view, if it was eliminated altogether. If it were eliminated, you wouldn't have to do anything with the other parking spaces that are in that area. You might be able to retain them. If it is maintained, then those parking spaces need to go because it's a safety issue. The turning movements concern me a little bit.
Charlie, if I may,
Sir.
how far the entrance from the light?
That entrance,
Yeah.
it's about 120 feet as I scale it off the plan. 120 feet.
Yeah, that's tight.
Turning movements also are a concern to me because I'm not sure where the trucks will be coming from that will service this area, bringing fuel in. But at the present time, if it's coming from the north, the only place it can get in would be off of Tow Road. That will make a substantial turning movement difficult, I think, with the approach. But I've seen no evidence yet as to what the interior turning movements are like within the site for that particular vehicle. It's going to be a tank truck that probably has a 35 to 40 foot wheelbase between the tandems on the trailer and the tandems on the tractor. Turning movement for that kind of a vehicle are not easy. Those drivers are good, but nevertheless, there is some restriction there. So if he comes into Tow Road, he's going to be headed in a northerly direction. That means that he's got to get from wherever the filling points are on the site, through the island area, up to the area to the north, and around that U-turn that's on the site, and then out to Cranberry Highway that way. There's no other way to get to Cranberry Highway. If he is coming from the south, there's no way for him to get south unless you come out of that same driveway and then try to make a turn across the highway. That's going to be a significant issue for him to do also. I did look at the parking. If it is a deviation, as I say, from the total number of spaces, I think you have to look at it in terms of what the zoning bylaw says. You have the option, I believe, of making a determination that you don't need the requisite number of 36, but you have to take it in consideration the language that's in the bylaw to make that determination. Lighting has been mentioned. Again, I happened to be coming from another meeting one night and had to go to exit 2 because Route 195 was blocked off for maintenance, so I went up to Route 58, got off the highway, and drove through the site. Unlike this plan, which has, I think it's 10 light poles, some of which have single units, some of which are double units, plus 20 units underneath the canopy, as opposed to the one at Seasons, which has a total of 7 light poles, 2 of which are double units, but they have 24 lights under the canopy because they've got 2 more islands there. They've got 6 islands rather than 5. But the intensity of lighting when you go to that site is much less than what you would see based on the lighting plan which is in your package. I think the intensity of lighting that's proposed here is high in comparison to what it might have to be. Bear in mind that there are other lights in the area. There's going to be more lighting across the street, not that it should shed anything across the street to this site, but I think that the intensity of lighting could be reduced some, and I'd like that to be looked at. The question was asked about the Tow Road intersection. The Tow Road layout as it comes out to Cranberry Highway is, I believe, only 50 feet wide. And if my memory serves me right, there was an easement that was drawn between the current owner of this site and the developer of that road to allow the road to be constructed in its location. It's also the place, I think there's some drainage that's in that grass area also. If this plan gets produced the way that you see it, a good portion of the traffic movements coming out with the right-hand turn lane plus the left-hand turn lane are going to be partially on private property. They're not going to be within the layout of the road. You may not see that an issue, but perhaps Attorney Perry would want to think about that a little bit, because now you may have a liability issue in terms of what happens if there's an accident. Whose liability is it?
I'm sorry, where would the private property, where would there be public use of private property?
What happens is that green area that you mentioned, Jim, That area, the property boundary for that extends out to the right-hand side on the plan, into the white area. The original survey between this property and what became Toll Road pushed the layout out into the middle, and then there was an agreement between the two owners to allow, as I remember it, an easement for that right-hand lane that's existing today. By doing what they want to do, it's going to push that roadway into the private property even more, meaning that only a portion of Toll Road will be within a layout. The rest of it will be on private property. Now, if they have...
A good part of it already is.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't
right.
see that we're creating a new problem. We may be exacerbating a
It's
problem.
certainly
It's our
increasing the
problem. It's not a
potential
board
for
problem, it's not a
problem.
zoning problem.
And I'm just raising it as something that he might want to look into in terms of how he protects the owner, because typically when you have roadways, it's in a layout of a street.
Renamed from Toll Road to Toll Road?
Maybe, if he wants to charge for it. There were some other things that I had mentioned, of course, in my report. Some of it has to do with stormwater, which we don't need to get into here. I'd rather hear from the applicant's engineer as to what his response would be for that. But I would like to see a plan that shows the turning movements, both for fire apparatus as well as for the tanker truck that's going to have to get in and out of this site, because right now I think it's going to be tough.
I think we had our fire department comments, which I believe, I hope you have, not I can give you.
I think, yeah, I saw.
And I mean, we don't have any problem accommodating them at all.
Okay, I have is there a possible way you could move the storage tanks to the grass area by Toll Road there?
I'm sorry, say that again, Nazzy?
Storage tanks, the underground tanks.
We looked at several different locations for storage tanks, and I can answer or talk about a few different comments that were raised. We know the fuel truck can get in and around the site. We can certainly show a fuel turning template. Obviously, the tanks and being able to get a fuel delivery truck into the site is the lifeblood of a gas station. So one of the first things we did is make sure, and we'll be more than happy to provide that when we submit our responses. But what we did is we looked at where the best location for the tanks was. And by putting the tanks where we did, when the fuel delivery truck is sitting on site dropping product, it's going to be out of the way. By putting the tanks in the corner, yeah, we're encroaching a little bit into some additional green space, but we're also putting it to where if the truck is there, you're putting it right in the middle of a high activity location where you have parking, you have a curb cut, you have fuel dispensers. So what we generally try and do is site the tanks where they are as out of the way as possible. This is New England. We don't usually get sites like this where we have a lot of space and we can put them out of the way, but that's what we were able to do here, and that's why they're situated where they are. As far as the curb cut, the southerly curb cut on Cranberry Highway, we feel very strongly that we need that curb cut. I don't have any issue with the engineer's comments relative to the 3 parking spaces. We envision those as potentially employee only to help limit the amount of movement you would have in and out of those spaces. But we could certainly, again, if we're lucky enough to get the relief we're seeking for parking, because even with 30, we feel we've got more than enough, we would be more than agreeable to removing those to eliminate the perception of a conflict of vehicles exiting the parking and cars entering the site off of Cranberry Highway. As far as that curb cut is concerned, if you look, the dispensers are set back about 100 feet from the travelway of Cranberry Highway. So cars are going to have more space than needed to be able to exit Cranberry Highway, enter the property, and figure out where they're going to go. So a lot of instances you might see cars having to pull in, stop, try and locate a pump, try and figure out where they're going. Here, because of the setback to the dispensers and the amount of room we have in general, we've created more than enough space so that we can avoid, again, what I think your concern is, of cars having to slow down and basically form a queue at that curb cut, which would create an issue. With uses like this, we're very dependent on pass-by traffic. One of the other comments was the number of trips. ITE is a very conservative number. It's not, in my opinion, based on a whole lot of reality. They take a whole bunch of locations from across the country and they say that's what you're going to get based on the number of pumps and the size of your building. They also say trips, but a trip is a car pulling into the site. Another trip is a car pulling out. So every time they talk about 2 trips, that's really only 1 car making its way into and out of the property. And in this particular instance, ITE generally allows you to take about 50% of a bonus, if you will, for pass-by traffic. But in actuality, because of the type of use, you're looking at about anywhere from 80 to, in some instances, 95% of the cars that will be utilizing this site are already on the roadway going somewhere else. We all use gas stations, and generally we're not waking up and saying, I gotta go right to the gas station and then I'm gonna come back home. You're doing it on your way to a destination, or you're doing it on your way back. So there will be added trips, but all of the trips will be confined to the interior of the site. The traffic report, which was prepared by professionally licensed traffic engineers, indicates that they see no significant impacts, no detrimental impacts from this use going in at that location, no impacts to the site and no impacts to the surrounding roadway system. And we certainly agree with their findings. Again, when we submit our response letter, we'll provide written documentation to that fact. But I think for this type of use, which is very dependent on pass-by trips, we really need that curb cut on both curb cuts on Cranberry Highway, because if not, you're really forcing the majority of traffic to drive past your location before they are able to turn in. I know they have an option to turn in at Toll Road, but again, a lot of times people are driving, they see a gas station, they make a turning movement in. Once they're at the middle of the site, they're gonna go down the road and go to the next one. So I know there's been some comparisons to the Seasons. They run a great operation, they're good at what they do. I'm very, very surprised that they moved forward with that particular layout without another curb cut, which would be very similar to this.
If I could,
However, I do agree with Charlie. Coming down from Toby Road, people stop at that light, and once the light go green, they start taking a left. Somebody wants to go in, step on that brake pretty quick, the new driver, older person, steps on that brake, and it's gonna cause a jam. It's very close to the light. That's why I asked how close it is. I would like to see at least 200 feet. I still disagree with the entrance that close. I don't see the problem with the entrance to the other side. If you eliminate the whole grass strip going in and make your entrance wider, you'll have a lot of locals. You're not gonna miss business. I mean, it'll take a couple of months, people get used to it. But that south entrance, I strongly agree with Charlie on that one. I'm not worried about the trips. I think you'll do easy 1,400 trips a day. I don't think it's a problem. The highway can handle it. My concern, that entrance is very, very unsafe. I've seen it happen when they close the lights like this. You go out and somebody's slamming the brakes, then you have a problem. You know what I'm talking about with the green at the entrance? What happened if you move your...
On the north
side, in the north entrance, yes. If you eliminate that grass, that big grass thing, that island, and make your entrance wider, what's wrong with that? Maybe double lane entrance, one lane exit.
Like 75 feet up.
Yeah.
Again, without the southerly curb cut, you're still forcing most people to drive effectively past the gas station before they'd have an opportunity to pull in. And
I do understand what he's saying. I'm a businessman myself, but
Only
I'm forcing the people. I don't want to get an accident.
All the southbound traffic is gonna go past the gas station to take a left onto Toby Road, Toll Road, to get into it.
just a
Well,
couple.
hopefully. Nazi's addressing the ones coming across from Toby Road.
What I'm saying is, you're gonna have the same situation going south.
Yeah.
So you,
They do have to, they absolutely have to pass the station to take a left at the light, take another left to come in. And I gotta tell you, I'm echoing consultant chair's position on that entrance that close to the lake.
Just a couple of things to address whether or not you could move the location of the tanks to that island on the right. On the site plan, I believe that's the location of one of the infiltration areas for stormwater.
I'm talking to the back one near the building.
Yeah, even in the back where the parking lot is, that's taken up.
Not the right, to the right.
I understand the island on the left. There is one thing about that particular location which is not evident by that plan, but when you go to the site plans, you can see it. When they put that entrance in, it's on the next lot. It's not on this property. So if, I think on the 8th or 9th of April, I think the planning board endorsed a plan which incorporated a strip of land on an adjacent lot for access to utilities. That's reflected here. So one of the questions I had with respect to that was, is there a potential for that left-hand driveway being a common driveway for not only this parcel, but the one next to it? So.
Which one, which part?
The one on the left. The parcel to the left, as it goes off the plan to the left.
To the north.
Is that the same owner?
Yes. There were 3 lots created by a Form A plan. This lot, a lot to the left, and a lot behind it.
Well, it's gonna, if
So-
that's the case, we will have to restrict it only to this parcel. It depends, how did they deed it, do we know?
I don't know, well, right now, it's all in one ownership, so I'm assuming there'll be an easement.
Do you know how it's deeded?
Yeah, I went before the planning board with the plan for Cranway Realty Trust, where they divided this property into 3 parcels, all under Form As. Basically, with the exception of an easement, this project is located only on one of those lots.
Okay, so you're saying the easement only for this lot?
Well, there's an easement that permits access to here, permits access to the back lot, and is on the more northerly lot. I think I got that plan when you'd like to see.
And we're not gonna, the question is, like Charlie said, we don't wanna see people, eventually, I'm sure there's gonna be a business next door. We don't wanna see people using this and the exit, go to the gas station to go to the lot next door. That's
Unless
crazy.
it's designed for it.
Say again, Jim?
Unless it's designed for it. I mean, what
Well,
if-
that's it. I mean, yeah, it was designed for it.
3 parcels.
That's a problem.
Well, is it a problem or is it a solution? Because
You
instead
mean
of
the
having
from toll road?
No,
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 Charlie's talking
I
about
think we've
toll road.
jumped up to the northerly entrance. I mean, I'm totally lost at this point, quite honestly.
I just
Okay,
brought it up for information so that
Which entrance, Charlie?
the west, the most left-hand entrance on the plan. I
Okay.
only brought it up so that you know that
Okay,
that's the
okay.
situation.
I'm sorry.
Okay? That's
Sorry,
all I'm,
sorry. I
all I'm
thought you were
saying.
talking about toll road.
Yeah. I think that there's an opportunity here, and that's why I brought it up, to improve traffic safety. And that's my main concern with removing that driveway that's closest to the intersection. It still, as you've suggested, requires traffic movements coming from the north, if they want to go into the site at all, have to go to Toll Road and take a left at the light, and then come in from sort of the backside. So whether they're going that way to try and get in or going to the north, it's a matter of habit. If it turns out that the amount of movements that you're going to see are pass-by traffic now, it won't take them long to get accustomed to that. It might be the occasional guy who comes in off the highway who's trying to get there, who isn't familiar with the site, he might run past it, but he could turn around if he really is that desperate for gas, and he'll find his way in on Toll Road, the same as anybody else would. But I think it's an opportunity to improve traffic safety in that area. And one thing about the traffic reports, which I've seen numerous reports now in this whole area, and that is that these traffic reports tend to concentrate mostly on what happens within the layout of the adjacent streets. Very rarely do they get into any detail about the kind of movements that take place on a particular lot. They address level of service, whether it's from A to F on Cranberry Highway or whether it's A to F on Toby Road, what it'll be on Toll Road, and they say, no problem with this project. Yeah, for those roads, fine. But what about the internal circulation?
I
And
think that we could conceivably request that such a study be done. I think that they do such studies. If needed, right? I might be wrong. I think it's something,
Well, it could be, but it would have to be focused on the issue of fundamental traffic safety with respect to what we see.
right, I'm just suggesting that maybe that's something we can ask be done.
You could, nothing wrong with that. Yeah.
If I may,
Yeah.
we are the ones generally as the site design engineers who look at internal circulation. When we put our stamp on a plan and we look at a layout of a facility, we need to make certain that, one, it's going to function well, that it's going to be easily negotiable both for the vehicular traffic, but also pedestrian traffic. And again, I've been designing retail facilities and gasoline facilities for 25 years. And this one, we have more than ample space to provide a safe and efficient interior traffic circulation. Again, the separations we have between pumps, the distances we have from pumps to curb lines, to travel lanes, all of that allow for more than adequate circulation, safe circulation, and easy circulation throughout this property. So I certainly agree with you that most traffic studies will focus on the right-of-way or rights-of-way, because the site design engineer is focusing on the internal circulation. And I can tell you, again, because it is New England, most of the lots where we're designing gas stations are an acre, maybe a little bit less. In this particular instance, we have an acre and a half. It's very well laid out. It's appropriately deep. So this site, even with the traffic that's anticipated to be generated, is going to function very well. And trying to do a study for a proposed condition until it's actually built would be very difficult. So there,
I see.
it'd be, you know, I don't know how we would actually do that to try and facilitate what we expect for traffic with a layout that would be comparable based on how the site is now, because there's just too much stuff in the way under the current condition.
I don't have a problem personally with the circulation inside. I think 12, 13, 1,400 trips is the cars a day is nothing for this size project. My main concern is the south entrance. This is
Well,
my-
that's what I thought, and somehow we got way away from that while we were
Right.
discussing it.
We need to
And-
go back, the south entrance is the,
I think it's something that the engineers will be discussing based on the position you took, Nazi, that perhaps it should move a little
I
bit.
mean, Jim agrees with me. Jake, how you feel about it?
We're talking about the bottom right?
Yeah, that
Hon-
entrance.
honestly-
Nazi is suggesting, that he agrees with Charlie, but not getting rid of it, maybe moving it up a little bit.
Yeah, if you moved it over a little bit, I mean, honestly, I think if you got rid of it, it's gonna make it a lot harder
It
to
is, it's
navigate
gonna be
through there.
very difficult when we get rid of it. I don't know, I'm not gonna commit on behalf of the engineers whether they can do
And,
it.
and
I'm
also,
gonna ask them to.
if we did eliminate those spots, I mean, right now, you guys are right, if you pulled in right now and you had people park, it's gonna cause a problem, so maybe we could just move the spot somewhere else, or,
Or you could give us a greater deviation,
Ex-
okay?
ex- exactly.
Which was maybe what we'd
Exactly.
be asking for.
but if you got rid of that, it's gonna,
Keep asking for deviations, we're gonna call you a deviant.
Jesus, look who's talking.
Look who's
Jen,
talking.
Jen,
Oh, I can't make you mad tonight, can I?
Yeah, I think Jake was still talking.
yeah, so, I think if you totally eliminated it, I think that would be a mistake, but maybe adjusting it and maybe, moving some spots or getting rid of them would work better.
Well, we're gonna be formally responding to Charlie, and I trust Luke and the other engineers at Bowler will be working with Charlie very closely, and hopefully we can come up with something in that respect that makes everybody happy.
well, it is the discretion of the board, so you wanna hear it from us, you better hear it from us than Charlie.
Well, no, but
You understand?
I agree with you. I agree with you, Nazir. That's not, I mean, you're the bosses. I think I said that a couple times already tonight.
Jen, so, go back.
I don't really have a problem with it. I think that moving it over to the left would probably make more, create more problems for internal flow. I think that, as they mentioned, the area from the street in before you have to commit to a pump is sufficient enough to prevent a lot of backup. I do get, you know, it being close to a red light. you
Very
know.
wide entrance right there.
But yeah, so I just, yeah, I don't have a problem with it as is.
I mean, I have a problem with that south entrance too. I'd like to see it wider, so, because what's gonna happen is, with the travel paths that they have, if you go out on Tow Road and you're making a right on the 28, and somebody's coming in, and they can't get out the way, that possibly could, that'd be you'd have a backup right there, especially when that light changes and you got people coming out of Walmart
Yeah,
taking
we
a left.
realize we may have to do some light timing changes here to make everything safe.
And, but even with the light time, and people are, unless you change a lot of the signings, run no right on red, all of that, you've got, basically, that's a major intersection now. I've driven that road several times. I would like to see that south go wider, and also, I would recommend having, with the fire department, is, swept path analysis that shows the path of the fire trucks, because that's the critical point, is getting a fire truck in there.
Well, I thought
How
that's
far
what
is the
they
entrance-
investigated and came to you people on, and came to us on, and we agreed with whatever they wanted done.
Where Maxi Gas is right now, how
Yes.
many feet from the lights is the entrance to turn right into there? If you guys have that.
Yeah,
I don't think it's changed yet.
I don't think it's substantially
The same
changed. I'm going to
location.
defer to Luke.
So the entrance, that entrance right there would be the same exact where it is now?
No, it's actually gonna be a little bit further north. This will be a little
Okay,
bit
so
further
if
north.
Maxi Gas isn't a it is kind of a problem right now, every once in a while it does back up, but now that there's that much room, there will never ever be, I don't think there'll ever be a problem in there.
Well, I mean,
There's
that,
so much more room. I mean, Maxi Gas, there's absolutely no room. You pull in there,
Boom, you're there.
cars jammed up all the time. Now, you pull in there, there's plenty of room to do whatever you need. My biggest concern is those two spots there on the right-hand side.
yeah, I do agree with that, I should have said, and I don't, I would give a deviation.
It's a very wide entrance coming in there. A lot of the entrances in Wareham are stop, take a sharp right, and there's not a nice arc going in. I think this flows a lot better. It's probably one of the best-looking gas stations that I've seen in Wareham, but that's just me.
Well, that's what we told you we expect to build. We expect to build the best one in town.
And
Gas stations in Wareham.
So the board feel if to keep, I disagree moving it to the left more. But if the board feels to keep it there, I guess these parking spots gotta go, but they're still not definite, so, again, comment.
I would suggest that the board get a copy of the plan from the station at Route 58 in Rochester and compare the circulation within both.
I mean, I'm not worried about the circulation inside,
You're going to find we're a lot better.
you know?
Plan
Let's,
You know, just as an aside too, incidentally, somebody mentioned 2 pumps at Maxi. Maxi Gas right now is 5 pumps. We've have 5 pumps. The only difference is they're double-sided pumps, so we get our 10, but we're not especially, we're not a tremendous amount over what is now being done. And they do a lot of business there.
I think the convenience store part of it, though, is certainly going to increase your population in that area as
Absolutely,
well.
absolutely. You're not wrong.
I hear what Jake is saying about Maxi Gas currently has an opening there. But I think that the entrance and exit at Maxi Gas is actually dangerous as it is right now. And they don't have as much traffic as this is definitely going to generate. This intersection at that light, I already know of several accidents that have happened there. So I'm in agreement that that entry, it should be limited, I think, to that one down. You're going to have people trying to take lefts from both of those to get over there, close to the light and further down to, I think the left is the south entry, right? I'm not certain,
There's
but.
no left, coming from the north heading south, there's gonna be no left turn into that gas station on Route 28.
You have to
But
go
so
to Toll
those are-
Road and turn.
Those are
Right.
right turns only for people that are
No,
heading north.
but what I'm saying is, so people coming, so gas station's on your right, you're coming down, you're gonna go in.
Yep.
People coming from,
The
are gonna,
north.
right, are
They're not-
probably
no.
gonna, well, I know it's,
they're not supposed to.
they're not supposed to. However, I think it is gonna happen, and I think that's gonna create a situation. I think that limiting it to the one is
I thought the
Is-
concern was people coming from Toby Road through the light and not an awful lot of distance to
It's both.
then get it. It's,
In my mind, it's both.
it's people coming from the north and making an illegal turn?
Yes. I mean, let's take, for instance, over near McDonald's, Burger King. Now, at Wendy's, across the street from McDonald's, so many accidents are happening there. There's supposed to be no left turn out of Wendy's. You get a lot of traffic coming in and out. People cross that double line all the time, which is why there's gonna be that,
Gonna
the
do what we're gonna
divider
do,
there.
yes.
Same thing I think is gonna
Agreed.
happen here, and like I said, I know of several accidents already at that light, and I just think it's gonna, we don't wanna add to, I think what's already, it's kinda like a questionable intersection myself, but that's just my opinion.
Yeah, I don't, I think this is a little bit of a different risk than Wendy's, because it's not just a sign saying, well, your concern was that they would make an illegal left turn off of Cranberry Highway?
Yeah, both.
Right.
Yeah, I think being close to the light, but also we need to consider that people are gonna try and take a left across that to get into those entrances, whether,
To get in,
Yeah.
right. Oh, I would just want, I wasn't sure if you were talking about coming out or going in. You're talking about going in.
yes.
Yeah, I think, I think it's a little bit different from a Wendy's situation because it's not necessarily easy it's awkward to try to do that. You're probably gonna always have cars trying to get in and out, whereas Wendy's, there's no impediment to you doing so. It's just, they say don't take a left and you do. I don't know if that makes any sense, but.
The way it's designed right now, if you tried to make that turn, you'd be going over, I think there's a rubble strip in the middle of the intersection. So you'd either have to go over that, or you'd have to go to the left of that, which
Yeah.
puts you in the path of oncoming traffic.
Right, yeah.
So in my view, it needs to be more of a standard intersection with wide enough curb radius, wide enough pavement width, so that traffic could get in and out easily at that location, and you're far enough away from the intersection and where the impact would be a lot less.
All right, let me ask you a question. How do you feel about losing the pump from the entrance?
Losing one of the MPDs? My guess is that the applicant would not want to lose an MPD. That's a critical component to the viability of the facility. And again, in my opinion, and we're certainly respectful of the engineer's comments and the comments received from the board, the location of the pumps, I think, is such that it plays no factor in traffic entering the site and being an issue as far as movement into the site off of Cranberry Highway. I think we've certainly heard everything that has been said relative to that curb cut. I think at this point, it'd be probably best to go speak with the traffic engineers who pulled together the report, get together with our office, and we can get together with Charlie, and we can figure out the best way to solve the problem. But again, as far as losing a pump, I'm guessing that's not an option.
I would agree it's not too, but, and I don't think it's relevant to what we've been talking about. We're talking about a problem out on the highway for a couple of reasons. As far as I can see, people coming out of Toby Road and trying to get across. The other thing is people who are acting illegally out on the highway. And, we don't have a lot of control over that, but it certainly shouldn't affect the number of pumps we can have at the gas
She was just voicing her opinion
station.
about people, Council. She's not making a case out of it. She's just saying that adds a problem, but.
I agree
It
completely.
doesn't happen a lot, but this is the important part is the south entrance. I mean, people do make left turn illegally. It'll be minimal, it's not gonna be a lot, but it is a problem. However.
Yeah, but they can do that at the north entrance too. They can do it at any entrance
I
we
know
have,
that-
is the issue, Nazi.
This case, but anyway, we need, to the board, we need to send these gentlemen with what to work on, so they have to feel how we feeling, so they could go work on it. So Jake, you don't have a problem with it?
No.
Jen?
I would just suggest removing those two parking spots.
So keeping it and remove the spots?
I mean, I can understand possibly if that's limited to employee parking and you wouldn't have as much of coming and going from those spots. But really it seems that it would probably be best to not have parking spots.
Okay. I'm not gonna make a final commitment, but I think we would much rather, the board would live with 30 spaces, live with that, than trying to get rid of a pump and lose an entrance.
Yeah, right.
All right, so you okay with the entrance without the parking spots?
Yes.
All right, Walter, what do you think?
Me, I mean, if, I'm also looking at that, them parking spots, but if they lose the parking spots, the biggest thing I have is, I'd like to see that entrance wider. I mean, I wouldn't, think about as far as removing it.
So you okay with the entrance?
Yeah, I'm okay with that, and the north entrance, Walmart has that same type of entrance, and
Okay,
they never
Jim,
go
what do you
across.
think?
I've been
Yeah, it
sitting-
doesn't seem to be a major problem.
On the north end, yeah.
I'm staring at the current, I'm looking at it on Google Earth, and the more I look at it, the less I'm opposed to the entrance. I don't really, I'm gonna go with Jake and Jan and say, get rid of the three places, the three spaces there that, or leave them unlined and give a guy with a big truck a place to pull over parallel rather than straight, there's always somebody with an oversized vehicle or pulling a boat or something looking for a place to go.
Yeah, these
Just,
guys with these big 350 Super Duty pickup
Yeah,
trucks.
these guys with these Ford F-350s and, box trucks and those
I mean, I
kind
think it'd be better if there was no parking right there at all.
Okay.
I'd rather a
If the
car than a
board's
big.
satisfied with that, I think.
The more I'm sitting here, I'm looking at the intersection and it's not scaring me anymore, so I'm okay.
Good, thank you.
All right, Walter, you said you would like it wider?
Yeah, I'd just like to see that wider, like I said, I mean, I
The
know.
problem is you make it wider, you're inviting people to make a illegal left turn.
I'm not saying wider towards the north side. If you lose them two parking spots, you can come to the inner part of that, which would be the south entrance, so that circle would just get a little wider. Because I'd be worried, I can see where their trucks are pulling in, it shows the tanks. If the truck's coming in there and that light's changing, it's gonna hold up everything, because people are gonna wanna still get in and get gas, and your truck's coming in. I just like to see it wider, and my biggest concern is as long as the fire trucks can get in there, and to see a swept
I'm
path.
putting a note on your comment to consider that.
I mean, they can do, there's programs out there that can do a swept path analysis, but they use the largest vehicle and
Did the
figure
fire
out the turn
department do
radius.
that in this case?
Pardon me?
Has the fire department done that in this case?
We've provided them with the fuel delivery turning template, which is going to be probably bigger than any apparatus they have in the fire department. So generally, but we'll run a fire truck template through the site as well. I know for a fact it can make it through there without problem.
Okay, so I guess you have a feeling what the board looking for. Let's go back to the lighting. Is it possible you downsize the lighting? You worry about the canopy, Charlie, or just the parking lot?
Just as an example, the Seasons one has 6 islands, and they have 24 lights underneath the canopy. They drop right straight down, so right under the canopy, it's fairly intense. But when you look at the perimeter lighting for the driveways and for around the building, it's much less. So you don't get that intense lighting for that site, which in terms of the amount of parking space and maneuverability, they've only got 7 poles.
So you need more
Only-
lights for the parking?
No, all I'm saying is, I believe there are 10 on this site. There are 7 up there, and it's of equivalent size. So I'm saying, I think there's an opportunity to reduce the intensity of the lighting. I don't know that we need as many as what are shown on this plan. When you go to the center of this plan, the intensity is high. I would like to see it reduced some.
Size of the light bulb or the number of light bulbs?
No, the lumens, the brightness, Jim.
So it could be more bulbs, but less lumens.
No, less room.
I don't think you need,
Yeah,
I
it's counting
don't think you
lumens. I mean,
need
you
10.
Yeah,
Smaller bulbs, less larger bulbs.
There's a different, I mean, again, I certainly understand what you're asking.
Go
Right
take a look
now,
at
if
it
you-
at night and see what I'm talking about.
You can look at the lighting plan, the lighting intensity, the foot candles under the canopy, which is the measure of the light intensity, effectively how bright it is about 50. That's generally the range under the canopy. This room, probably where I'm sitting right now at that tabletop, is probably somewhere in the 70 range. So 50-foot candles at a fueling facility is pretty standard. It's actually lower than what I've seen at a lot of others. The reason we want to have light underneath the canopy, you have pedestrians, you have fueling operations, you have credit card transactions. You want that to be fairly well lit, especially during dark hours. People want to feel safe, they need to be able to see what they're doing. And at the end of the day, 50-foot candles isn't a tremendous amount of light intensity, and it's very well defined within the limits of the canopy. Once you get,
Charlie was speaking.
Outside the canopy,
but I'm getting to, even outside, the number of light poles is basically based on the size of the site. Now, I don't know what Seasons was, how big that site was.
It's very-
We have
very similar
lights,
to this.
generally, again, where we have tanks, we have our trash enclosure, where we have parking, and where we have curb cuts. We're certainly not looking to light up the entire site, and generally underneath the yard lights, you're looking at foot candle readings of somewhere in the 20. So it's less than half of what you have under the canopy. And again, the sole purpose is to make sure that when the lights are on, and when we need the lights, it's where we need it. And you won't see that glare, you won't see light trespass. It's not gonna have a big halo effect at night. It's gonna be a very well-defined and well-lit location. We could certainly work with Red Leonard. We'll see if there's something they might be able to do, move some lights around, do some double fixture type of things. But I think at the end of the day, 10, 11 light poles for an acre-and-a-half site is pretty standard.
I would just encourage you to take a look at that, and go there at night after the lights are on and see what it's like. I think you'll see that it's more than ample for a site that's very similar to this. Has the same sort of configuration. If you took that most southerly entrance off of the intersection, you'd have the points of access and egress exactly the same as what they have. The only difference is that there's more room to the back of the building because they have a driveway there for a drive-through. It's basically the same thing. The island to the left is the same, the location of the islands for the pumps is the same, points of entry is the same. It's very similar, and I think they get away with a lot less intensity outside of the pump island itself. I'm not saying you need to reduce that necessarily. They've got 24, you got 20. So-
My guess is too, I think that Seasons was built about 5, 6 years ago.
No more than that.
My guess is they submitted a lighting plan. We can hopefully,
That's in Rochester. We keep comparing. Let's stick here. We don't want to compare to anyone else. I suggest we keep the number of poles, reduce the luminance, the bulbs, to less luminance. If it's necessary, if we see it loud, we could change it, I guess. But looking at the plans, I think if you remove light bulbs, Charlie, light poles, you're gonna have a problem. I've built sites that size and there's never enough light.
I'm just recommending you take a look at that one in the comparison.
I will go
it's
look
close
at
enough.
it. I will look at it, but I'm afraid if we eliminate poles, then we don't have enough light. I would say keep the poles, make lower bulbs, less voltage, just to try it. Because it'll be a big problem adding poles after. Anyway,
The only way to solve it, if you don't have enough poles, is to put brighter lights, and then they get harsh.
Then it gets worse, yeah.
right, so that's why.
I'm a
I said
light man.
keep
I
the number
agree
of
with as many
poles.
poles you can get, and maybe you adjust your bulbs to if it's too harsh, but
All right.
you can't go the other way very easily.
I guess you filed stormwater management, stormwater?
Yeah,
You
Charlie?
filed that with Charlie?
yes.
I had some minor things there, but it's not worth taking up the board's time. I'd rather discuss it with the
Right,
engineer.
I mean, we wouldn't understand it anyway. Going back to the sign now, I would like Walter discuss, so, what's the height of the sign right now, the existing sign? You know,
You know what the existing,
You mean the sign that's up there now? Whatever, it's pretty high. I couldn't measure it. I went up there, I think I gave you photographs of it, and,
I mean, are you going
we're
higher
talking
than
a
that?
night.
You trying to
We're
go
probably a
high-
little bit higher than that. We're looking at 25 feet. Your bylaw is 18 feet.
That's about 18.
I don't see the need of high signs. When I built the mobile one in West Wareham, and I remember one of the board member, I think Michelle Zolo, suggested a low sign, because Dunkin' Donut and the highway had a low sign, like if you notice, the whole thing is 8 feet. And to be honest with you, it works great, everybody comments on it, because you can see it driving. High sign doesn't really, it doesn't have to be that loud, why would it have to be that high?
Well, you know, I mean, we can reduce the sign a little bit.
I mean,
I
because
don't
I
think we can
drive
get
by
it down
mobile
to
right
18
now,
feet. And the reason is, we've got a little different requirements than you had up there. We have to post the brand, we have to post the price, and then we certainly need some signage somewhere to tell you what else we're doing there. Because we got a convenience
So at
store.
the same time, though, a larger sign for this particular location, in my mind, would alleviate some of the concern about, spotting something at the last minute and trying to,
Well, that's my position, we're letting people know what's there.
yeah.
And as I said, we could maybe redo it. Charlie talked about, well, instead of 8 feet under the sign, why don't you put 7? I mean, I don't know if that's a major problem. I should yield to the engineers instead of saying that myself. I don't see it as a major problem. But we need a big sign. We need a big sign just to accommodate the public and do what we have to do statutorily for the public, which is, we're a gas station.
Yeah.
We have to tell them the price, we have to tell them the brand, that's mandatory. And I don't see how you do it on too much lower sign. I looked around the neighborhood an awful lot, I couldn't measure any signs. In fact, I was out there in the rain taking pictures for you guys.
I mean, it makes sense to be.
You got some pretty high signs
in
up there.
proportion with the size of the business.
Yeah, my personal opinion, I don't know how the board feels, drop it down to 18.
And that's where I'm steering along, because the other signs, they're about 18 now,
Right.
and if he's at this height,
Otherwise, that's not a waiver, Counselor. It has to be a variance, to be honest with you. I personally would look at it.
Well, I don't think it's a 40A variance anyway. The bylaw talks to 2 different ways that you allow a sign that exceeds the bylaw. And the one is deviation, the second is a variance under 1125A, which mainly talks to finding that the public's not hurt by the thing. I'm going to read 1125A to you. And we're happy to work on trying to get as close to 18 and present that to you as we can, but 1125, I said, here.
Bob, where does 1125?
In those instances where the strict application of this article would be impractical, impossible, or create undue hardship, and I think it does in the case of a gas station, a majority vote of the zoning board of appeals may permit variances from this article, and it doesn't mean 40A variances when we're talking about the sign bylaw.
It doesn't say
I don't think,
40.
it doesn't mean 40A variances. All it means is that if you find that there'd be a hardship to us as a result of reducing that sign too much, and once again, we're dealing with a gas station. We're not dealing with, the Walmart, that's not a statutory sign type thing. The new liquor store, that's not a statutory sign type thing like we've got. We can probably get somewhat off the 25 feet, I agree. We're talking only a 7-foot difference. Whether we can get down to 18 and satisfy the statute and still have meaningful signage for a variety store is highly questionable. It would create a tremendous hardship on the applicant.
Where were you reading from?
I'm on 1125.1.
I think that we have different,
Bylaws?
yeah.
Well, it wouldn't surprise me.
What's the date on your version?
February 2018.
Yeah, there's an October. There's a new,
I think it's the
Well,
same
what's
language, just
1125?
No, I apologize.
Okay, you
I'm
got it.
there, I'm there. 1125.4?
Yeah.
I'm sorry about that.
I noticed on on Charlie's response that there was some numbers that he was saying they don't even exist, that they're a different number.
Oh, that may be.
I made notes of it, if
This happens to be the same. That was just me.
Okay.
I think the language is the same, it was just different codification.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah, I found, there they are, right here. Like, you've got 1110A, and it should be 1110.1.
Yeah, that's the parking one.
Yeah.
Yes.
Instead of.
The substance is the
instead of
I saw that in my letter when I'm reading this one, so I obviously used an even older one when I got my references to the sections. Well, I was under the gun here to file, although I don't think the 30-day thing matters in this case, but I still want to meet the 30 days, so I was like filing at the last minute.
All right, let's go back to the sign.
Sure.
I think Walter feels that should be 18 feet, right? Not higher than 18.
yes, I do, and I mean, looking at the height it is from the stone wall that they have, and then you add, they're losing almost 10 feet just to get to their electronic message board, so they have the room to put the signage that they need there. I understand what they're trying to do is get it up higher so you can see it from the intersection, I suppose, or beyond the intersection.
Which is a good thing for some, for.
Right,
for-
but
In terms of for the, this location and people not,
you gotta think of both directions, coming from the other direction, placement of the sign.
All right, so
I'm being
Walter,
told right now that we think we might be able to get it down to 20. We've got to talk with the principals and get approval, obviously, but he's done a little bit of engineering here
I know,
while
we're
we've been
just letting
talking.
you how the board feel, though.
Well, I understand that, but if I can get it down to 20, I'd like to at least be able to present to you the reasons that we need the 20.
yeah. I apologize, I have to run to the restroom.
Excuse me?
I have to run to the restroom.
Okay.
Go ahead. I think it's important to remember, though, where's this sign gonna be on the lot? You don't wanna block people's vision when they're turning in or out either.
Well, that's one of the reasons it's high. I mean, we've got 8 feet under it so people can see.
It's in the southwest corner in that landscape strip. It's going to be set back a significant distance from the right-of-way. It's not going to pose any,
So it-
no visibility issues.
Okay,
So,
okay.
oh, I didn't see that.
I see it on the plan there now that
Jake, how you feel about the sign?
so it's not, you don't need to
It
see.
doesn't really matter to me whether it's 18 feet or 25 feet, whatever.
All right, Jim.
As far as, I think it's resolvable. My question, I would, it says electronic message board. So my question on that is that gonna be like a static message, buy a gallon of gasoline, get a free Pepsi? Or is that gonna be something that's gonna be moving, and what's the tone of that thing?
I mean, it's probably going to change throughout the course of the day. It's not intended, at least as,
Changes and stays static, I don't have a problem with that, kinda like the billboard down on Cranberry Highway. What I would perceive to be an issue where it's gonna be so close to this intersection is that if it's
Blinking, it's a ding.
blinking and
I
flashing,
understand that, I
it's gonna be
understand that.
distracting,
Sure.
if you put a little guy chasing a ball or something and it catches somebody's eye, but if it's just gonna say, buy a Tootsie Roll and get 10 gallons of gas, well, okay, that's static. I can deal with that.
Okay,
we'll check.
we'll keep that in mind. I better get a note
buy
here.
a lot of Tootsie Rolls.
You're wearing me down. I gotta put it in my notes.
Let me ask you a question. The north side exit, that big grass island, what happen if you narrow it and add parking there? Because if the board feels to eliminate parking here, so you gotta find it somewhere else.
You certainly could. We generally try and maximize green space. What we don't want to have is we don't want to have a giant parking lot that
Well,
is
you're gonna
basically
put the
empty.
greens here, you're gonna, when you eliminate.
Right, no, I understand what you're asking. I just think for this type of use, with the number of dispensers, which create, like I said, that 10 additional parking, plus what we're thinking if we even reduce the 3 at the intersection there that are a concern, 30 parking spaces is more than enough, and we'd hate to take away from landscaping just to have more parking that, again, we don't think we necessarily need.
And I love your idea, Nazi, that we get to count like 50% of the pump parking spaces toward our parking, in which case we almost don't have a problem. Eliminate those 3, I think we then short 1 space out of the bylaw.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Because it makes me think of the parking. Are you planning on having multiple vendors inside of the store, like Dunkin' Donuts or whoever else? So what's that? Subway, other people doing business, so that whoever's parking there is gonna be there potentially longer than they would if it was just a convenience and gas station.
Short answer for me is,
Well, the reason I'm asking
I'm going to give the
because,
same answer I'm going to give.
I don't know.
I don't know either
We'll
because.
look into it.
Because the developers don't know at this point in time to whom they might either lease or sell ultimately.
okay,
So,
because
I mean, I just can't answer
Sure,
that
there'll
question.
be additional stores inside, I'm very sure.
and do we have a
like a
requirement
Subway.
for however many stores there are that affect
I mean,
parking
this
or,
is
I just.
it does, but, I mean, this is the
Well, it
type of
goes by-
business.
goes by
They
the
add
size of the
stuff,
store.
you know, that's how they make it. I mean, 1 or 2 usually, like a Subway, a coffee shop, I mean,
I'm thinking of the gas station, Marion on the corner there, near going down to Tabor, what's that road there? So they, what is it, front, yeah. So I'm thinking about how busy their parking lot gets. They have multiple things going on inside, a lot of people coming in and out, and that parking lot actually gets pretty full.
Sure does.
Yeah, so.
Right.
But that's on like 3/4 of an acre, it's double size.
Which one are we talking, Marion?
When you turn left to go to Tabor Academy, the
Like
lights,
Cumberland.
the Cumberlands that moved across the street,
Yeah,
the one that's on the corner now. that's
the
what-
tiny one.
Tiny.
Yeah, I mean, that's tiny compared to us. And I don't know, do they have any other vendors in that store other than Cumberland's?
No.
I don't think they do. You know, it's crowded, there's no question, I go there periodically, but it's half the size or less, a third the size of our site.
I don't mind vendors, I mean, this is probably almost $6 million.
It's the nature of the beast.
Oh, no, I don't mind vendors, I'm just asking what the impact it will have on parking. 'cause
I
we're
understand.
discussing parking.
I mean, I can't think of another convenience store gas station in town that has this much.
No, I can't either, that's why I say we're going to be the best in town. I have no question whatsoever of that, because we've got the greatest amount of room in town. We've got some issues that I don't consider serious issues, I think we can resolve them with you, make you happy.
Let me,
I'm gonna work hard at it.
One more question. When the truck unloading fuel, you're gonna block these pumps, no? Because you only get 40 feet, 40 feet to half of the tank, so you probably have like 30, and the tanker's gonna take like at least 15. So how is that gonna work?
Well, we've set if you notice, the tanks are inset into the curb slightly, so the fuel delivery vehicle is going to be able to park effectively right up against the curb. There's 40 feet, but that dimension is to the overhang of the canopy. There's another 6 or so to the dispenser itself. So you're going to have more than enough room, even when the truck is dropping product on site, for cars to get in and out of there without impact to traffic patterns and whatnot. And generally, the fuel truck is going to be on site during non-peak hours when hopefully activity on the site is low.
Just a comment on that, Mr. Chairman. The total distance from one end of that cutout for the pavement to the other is about 80 feet. But the covers for the storage tanks are sticking out from the edge of curb only about 7 or 8. So the truck would have to be tight to the curb in order for them to get access and have their filler hoses off the truck and then down to that. But the question remains whether or not they're actually going to be pulling in parallel all the way to that curb line. There's a chance that they could be out in the driving lane a little bit. But that area is about 7 or 8 feet wide, so that if they pull tight to the curb, they might be out of the way. But that would be the best
Tankers
scenario.
come usually at night, don't they?
I'm sorry?
Most tankers, do they come at night unload?
Off-peak, yeah. They'll be there when hopefully it's not busy.
They
Where
can be
it's
at any
busy
time
is.
of day.
Yeah, that's true.
Depends on when the tanks get empty.
I was just gonna say, unless it's too busy and they gotta come in the middle of the day because they run out of gas, but
Good thing, I guess. if
hopefully
they get-
planning will take care of that.
Hopefully you get 2 tankers a day, I hope you make a lot of money. That's what we're all here for. Anyway, so, what else, you guys have comments, so these gentlemen?
I have another question, which is in relation to the question Charlie had asked about the easement on Tow Road and the existing mouth of the road there. I'm not really clear on what is being proposed there. Where is the existing line? Is that being proposed to shrink or expand, or how is that affecting the current?
Turn your plans to sheet C4, it's like the third or fourth one in, Veronica. And then completely over to your left.
Oh, this
Okay.
is what you're
That shows the access, the way that they propose it, and that heavy dashed line that's to right of that, that's the property boundary.
Oh, you weren't talking about you weren't talking
was-
about Tow
I was
Road.
talking about both of them, actually, but
Because it's Tow Road, I'm a little confused about where the property lines
Okay.
are, what's shared.
Same
see on my
plan.
sheet, see on my sheet where the bright yellow is?
Yeah,
That's the property boundary.
and right now, where is the actual street?
A portion of it is on this side, a portion of it's over here. What they propose to do is basically make it twice as wide on the portion that's outside the property boundary of the layout.
So they're making tow road wider, bottom line.
Like that,
It's already on.
right there is
right.
where the
So you go
bright
left
lines
We're
are on
moving
my
it over
plan
even
is where the
further onto our
property boundaries
property,
are.
so. So that's why I say, it doesn't create a new problem by any means. I don't see as it creates a problem.
The only question I would have after listening to all this, it would seem apparent to me that that's private, not town way, but private road. Who maintains it? If it needs to be paved, who paves it?
Actually, I think you might have, no, you might have some serious issues on that.
I know who plows it because we plow all roads, public and private.
Well, that's right, the town plows, there's no question. You raised the paved issue, okay? I would have responded to the plow issue, and the town plows it, and that's all there is to it, and they're gonna continue to plow it, because that's,
Who fixes the pothole? Who decides it needs to be ground and repaved? And who pays for it?
Well, they're gonna have to.
Be the owners of the road.
well, I think what has to happen, if you want to, Jim, I think, and it hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, I'm just,
There was an expansion of Toll Road. That part hasn't been given to the town yet. It has to be presented to the town. The whole thing, when it's done, has to be given to the town. And the town expects it.
so if it's, so the intention is to make it conform so that it could become a town-approved way.
Yes.
Okay, that answers my question. I kept hearing private, I was getting the impression that there was no intention of,
Oh, no, that's something that, it should have been done prior to this. I'm glad it wasn't, because now we would have gone through a two-step process. Now we'll go through a one-step process.
is the paving that gets done lasts long enough to transfer title?
Pardon me?
If the plan is to pave it good enough so that before it needs repair.
The town has it. Yes, absolutely, of course.
Mr. Chairman, I would be very cautious about suggesting that it would go over to the town. Half of the pavement's going to be on private property. If I were to take a look at that layout plan, I would never recommend to the town that it be taken over if it isn't all within a layout that the town would then have control over.
Oh, I guess we'll stay to the owner.
I don't think that's ever going to happen here.
It's no
No, that's
different,
right.
it's
I mean,
no
it's-
different than a private driveway.
One way or the other, it's not, it doesn't get any worse than it is now.
I mean, just, the
Oh, I
owner
know
have to
who pays
maintain
the
it.
entrance to Stop and Shop, I get it. I'm just wondering if this is gonna be, just my question is,
All right.
Well, this isn't part, yeah, the Stop and Shop is part of their parking lot. And I mean, it's not Stop and Shop, it's the owner of the mall, the property. I understand where you're coming from, and
So let's make it clear back to these gentlemen what they're gonna have to go and redo. So I guess most of the board agreed to the entrance where it is without the parking lots on the right. The sign, me and Walter adamant about the 18 feet high. Lighting, we do agree that keep the same number of poles. Worst come to worst, they have to downsize the lumens. What else?
I mean, I'm fine, I go by the mobile every day, and I'm there at 4:30 in the morning, it's not too bright. So, I mean, I'm fine even with the lights, if it's gonna stay within that range. Like I said, I go by there at 4:30 in the morning, and,
Fine.
no, and their lot's pretty big too, the mobile, right near the police station.
All right, and I guess you gotta coordinate for stormwater.
they've got to work together on the stormwater. Charlie didn't raise an awful lot of issues, but we're certainly going to consider any he did and resolve them.
When do you guys like to come back? I guess next hearing, right?
Gonna be ready in 2 weeks, so you need 4 weeks?
I think two,
Okay.
yeah.
And then just make sure the sweat path analysis
What date
happens.
does that put it on?
Sweat path analysis.
What's your next
For the
meeting?
fire department, because the fire department has a different turning radius than a tanker.
We have the fire truck turning templates, we can put that right on there.
Yeah, and then I'm fine.
I wanna have the clerk read this notice from the fire department quick.
Addressed to Kenneth Buckland. Dear Mr. Buckland, I have reviewed the site plans for the proposed filling station and convenience store to be located at 2416 Cranberry Highway. I have the following comments. 2 bullets. The first one is to increase the inside turn radius of the north side entrance into the proposed filling station to 25 feet. The second one is to provide a fire truck turning analysis for the proposed site. If you have any further questions regarding this matter, please feel free to contact my office. Respectfully, Lieutenant Christopher Smith, Fire Prevention.
Jim, what was that first request that he had?
The first request was to increase the inside turn radius of the north side entrance into the proposed filling station to 25 feet.
There's no right turn, there's no turn into that.
He means at the top of the driveway.
Correct.
Side of the property.
Yeah, not from the road,
Right, up on,
Which one's he talking about?
right here.
where it goes right into the parking lot, you have to make that hard right. He's,
Inside turn radius, in there.
This one right here. You want to see that? It's a 15-foot radius now. I'd like to see it increase to 25.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
It's not a problem at all.
no, we're doing that.
And that swept path analysis would root all that out. It would show that that truck or whoever would need that probably space.
I think the analysis goes to the entire lot, does it not? I think the analysis goes to the entire lot.
Yeah,
and
it'd
as far
cover
as that
everything,
change that-
structures,
that
everything.
Lieutenant Smith wants, we're doing that.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So is your next meeting the 8th?
The 8th,
that it?
the 8th,
Hey,
May 8th.
Yes, yeah, I figured that.
All right, if for some reason anyone has like some comments, like the applicant to insert, let Ken know to email to them, so this way we don't have them waste time. So the 8th, everyone's okay with that?
Yep.
Make a motion.
So moved.
A second.
Second.
Second to continue, 13-19 to May 8th. All in favor, say aye.
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 Oppose, abstain. Thank you. All right, I guess we'll see you on the 8th.
I'm reviewing those minutes so we can vote on them before we close the meeting for the night.
what's that? Sorry. No, that's okay. You know, me, I'll get started out.
Hey, man, how are you?
good to see you still doing
Yeah, trying to do.
thorough.
Huh?
You're very thorough.
I don't know how to be anything else.
You've never heard that before, right?
No,
I'm the
no,
first
no.
guy that ever told you that.
Yeah, how's your mom?
I just took her 3 weeks ago. Took her to Houston, Texas.
Yeah? What's down there?
My uncle, my father's oldest brother.
Oh,
My dad's father was one of 7.
Robert?
So we kept talking about going
Our way?
Yes, sir.
your sisters? How they doing? Good.
Yeah, three local, three.
Something in your...
The youngest sister was right across, she's my mother.
Yeah,
Diana lives in Middleborough.
yeah.
The tall sister lives in Marion.
Oh, that's
The one that's in Florida should be in. Good place. I'll see you on May 8th.
Okay.
I'll call you.
How's your office working out?
We really like it.
Good.
That was in your,
Would've had a little more wiggle room if we had books.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Is your daughter living there?
She's occupying it, let's put it that way. She works up in, it's above Beverly. Works at a seminary. Gordon Conwell Seminary. Comes down on weekends.
She's not doing that tonight.
So she stays up there with the Cabot Lodges during the week. She comes down on weekends.
I'm gonna call you, so. we'll talk.
Okay.
In a long ride, so I'll talk to you tomorrow, right?
All right, have a good night, thank you. All right, guys.
You got everything in on that last one?
I believe so.
Hello?
Take a nap almost every day.
The minutes, pay
Put a
attention.
big sofa in my office.
The minutes, we're gonna continue for next hearing, all right? All right, Jasmine, can you bring back the minutes on 24th? Thank you. We'll bring the minutes back on 24th. It's too much.
Most of the other stuff is little stuff.
Anything else? Oh, let's go on,
Yes.
on the discussion, possible vote. Can you guys give us a minute? Thank you. All right. Usually this time of year, or pretty much in June, we reorganize. So if anybody have something in mind to reorganize, and so
We
with
should
that,
get pens, we should get 3 pens.
yeah.
Get free pens?
Yeah, because I forget them every weekend.
We'll put one in each packet then.
Gum and pens.
And name tags.
Uh,
Yeah, that's a
the
good one.
thing is, to reorganize, we only 4 members can vote on this.
Well, we can't say what we want?
Notepads?
Say it again, only 4.
Well, they're not regular members. I mean, they associates.
So what,
Can't try and influence you on your vote?
Definitely.
I don't see any need to
So
reorganize.
who's the associate? Bob is not here.
Bob, her, and
We got 3 associates?
yes.
And we have only 4 members. Nobody, I thought, Jake, I thought you were,
Yes,
I am.
but that's.
I'm
for-
sorry, that's, okay, that's still 4. So we have 3 associates officially and,
Why don't we wait to get a 5th member, see who the selectmen will appoint? And then we could reorganize. You could throw me to the curb then.
so,
All right, so, and,
Oh, that's what you mean by reorganize, not like pens, okay.
no pens.
Yeah.
And also, on
That's wishful thinking, huh?
I also want to discuss, now that we're a big board, we have to give each other turns to talk. We can't talk over each other. It's way too many people. We're not here now, so if you, please, everyone be recognized before they speak, because between us, them, and everyone else, it become a chaos. So just let us take turns. We work much better for everyone. Other than that, I guess we'll wait for selectmen to give us a permanent member, and then we can reorganize if you guys wish. Anything else? Okay, let's make a motion. What's this, the review approval Wendy's signage?
Wendy's came in with a signage package. I thought that there was a requirement in the conditions of the approval that the signage be reviewed. So I asked them to submit the signage plans.
Okay.
I have 3 copies here.
another one, or
No, I only have 3 copies.
do we have 3 copies, okay?
Okay,
All right.
so I can remind you if I've seen before.
Is that, does that, comply with the zoning bylaws? Or-
There's one piece of interpretation, which is the parapet sign, which extends above the eave.
Yeah, it's about the eaves, is that what you said?
Right here? Okay, what about it? So, the encroach on the setback, you mean?
No, as to whether or not that's a wall sign or a roof sign.
This one?
Right.
Looks to me like a wall sign.
Was a roof sign not allowed, is that what it is?
It's the height of the sign as a result of
I mean, I would see that as a wall sign. It's not on the roof.
How do you see it? How do you-
I see the parapet as being part of the roof, and that's the height of the roof, and the sign is within the requirements of the zoning.
Is within the requirement?
Is within the requirements of the zoning.
Okay.
I agree with Ken.
Yeah, I agree with you too, because it's attached to the structure, so it's part of the building, so I wouldn't, it's only, what, 30 feet?
That makes sense.
Yeah, I would say it's within all the limits.
You guys wanna act on it, you wanna?
Do we need to vote on this, or do we just need to see it?
Just need to see it in your interpretation. It'll, when they go for the building permit, there'll be another review.
Let's discuss it next time. Everybody takes a package and sleep on it.
I'll send around the email with the sign package in it.
Maybe you should write us a memo, Ken. Explain.
That's fine.
All right, so,
you're welcome.
Ken would send us a memo, explain it more so we know what we're looking at.
Okay.
All right. All right, so let's make a motion to adjourn.
So moved?
Have a second?
Second it?
All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, abstain. Thank you. Thanks, both.